Undercover boss walks into his own store, stops cold when he hears what the cashier says. If you like the story, don't forget to subscribe. I don't care if he's the owner. If he ever steps foot in here, I'm quitting. Those were the exact words that made Mark Dalton, CEO of Freshmart Superstores, freeze mid-step, just 5 feet inside the sliding glass doors of his own store. He had been expecting a quiet, observational visit. Instead, those words hit him like a punch to the gut. It was a regular Tuesday. Or, at least, it should have been. Mark had planned this day for weeks, blocking his calendar, ignoring board meetings, and even skipping a scheduled investor call.
Why?
Because he needed to know what was really going on in his stores, not what the reports were saying, not what regional managers claimed. He wanted raw truth, unfiltered and on the ground. So he launched Operation Ground Level, a series of unannounced visits to random stores, dressed not in a suit, but like an everyday guy. He wore a cheap navy blue polo, khakis 2 sizes too big, and a fake mustache that looked more like a Halloween prank than a disguise. A plain baseball cap topped it off. Walking into store number 48, nestled in a suburban strip mall, Mark expected to see smiling employees, helpful managers, and clean aisles, the very image his commercials promised. But within seconds, reality slapped him in the face. A young cashier with fire-red hair and tired eyes was mid-conversation with a customer at checkout. "Seriously," she said, shaking her head. "The guy owns 100 stores, right? Yet here we are, short-staffed, the freezers haven't worked right in 2 weeks, and last week I had to use my own money to buy printer paper because corporate forgot to reorder it." Again. The customer, a woman holding a fussy toddler, raised her eyebrows.
Wow.
"That bad, huh?" "Oh, it's worse," the cashier replied, scanning a loaf of bread. "He sends these motivational emails from his $1 million office like he's still one of us. Last month he wrote, 'The heartbeat of the company is its people.'" I nearly choked on my lunch. Mark felt his face go red. He had sent that email. It had taken him an hour to craft. He even thought it sounded inspiring at the time. But hearing it parroted back with such sarcasm, it made his stomach twist. He ducked behind a tall stack of cereal boxes, listening. It felt wrong, eavesdropping on employees like this. But part of him knew this was the only way he'd ever hear what his workers really thought. The cashier kept talking. "People think it's just retail. But we work hard. I've closed this store alone at night. No security, no backup, just me and a panic button. My manager. He clocks out by 6. Meanwhile, the company acts like we're lucky to have jobs." The customer didn't know what to say. Neither did Mark. He peeked out again to get a better look. Her name tag read, Lily. She was fast, efficient. Despite her rant, she smiled politely at the customer and even knelt down to pick up a toy the toddler dropped. There was no malice in her. Just exhaustion. Frustration. The kind that builds when no one listens. Mark slowly walked toward the produce section, pretending to inspect apples while he processed what he'd just heard. This wasn't just one disgruntled employee blowing off steam. This was a symptom of something deeper, something broken. And if Lily felt this way, how many others did too? He flashed back to his early days, back when Freshmart was just a small family-owned grocery on the east side of town. He remembered the long nights, the busted HVAC, running out of stock and handwriting receipts. He remembered working with his employees, not above them. Back then, he knew everyone's name, their birthdays, their kids' favorite snacks.
No.
He barely recognized the name of this location, let alone the people inside it. Somewhere between expansion plans and stockholder calls, Mark had lost touch. And that's why Lily's words stung so much. They were true. He took a deep breath and pulled out his phone. He wasn't going to fire her.
No.
He needed to hear more. From her, from others. Not to reprimand, but to learn. Because the success of Freshmart had never been about policies or sleek commercials. It had always been about the people in the aisles, those checking out groceries, stocking shelves, and folding uniforms at 11 p.m. And now, more than ever, it was time to go back to where it all started. Ground level. Mark ducked behind a stack of cereal boxes, peeking over the edge like a spy in a comedy movie. His back pressed awkwardly against the shelf as boxes of Honey Burst O's teetered beside him. It was the most absurd situation he'd ever found himself in, CEO of a multimillion-dollar company, hiding like a nervous intern in aisle 4. But he couldn't move. Not yet. Just 15 feet away, the cashier, mid-20s, fiery red hair pulled back into a loose ponytail, and a voice dripping with sarcasm, was holding court at the checkout line. A growing line of customers listened as she vented, completely unaware that the man she was criticizing was crouched within earshot, dressed like a budget Walmart version of himself. "He owns 100 stores, right?" she said, waving a barcode scanner like a conductor's baton. "But we're still short-staffed. Our freezers are busted half the time, and don't even get me started on the air conditioning. We're working in a sauna while corporate pretends everything's perfect." She scanned a bag of frozen peas and dropped it into a paper bag. "Oh, and guess how many raises we've had in the last 2 years?" she added, looking at an older gentleman with a basket of canned soup. He shrugged. 2. She gave a laugh that wasn't really a laugh. "Try 0. Nada. Zip." A younger customer with a baby on her hip chuckled awkwardly. "Yikes. Sounds rough." "Oh, it is," the cashier replied, now ringing up a gallon of milk. "But the worst part? The emails. You know, the ones from the top. Weekly nonsense about vision and passion and people. Last week, the guy wrote, 'The heartbeat of the company is its people.' I nearly spit out my coffee." Mark's face went crimson. He had sent that email. He even remembered tweaking that line to make it sound heartfelt. He'd been proud of it, too, spent half an hour adjusting the tone so it wouldn't come off too corporate. But hearing it repeated now with a mocking lilt, the words sounded hollow, even ridiculous. From his hiding place, Mark watched her move. She was quick, efficient, polite with customers. But there was tension in her shoulders, fatigue in the way she leaned on the counter between transactions. Every now and then, she rubbed her wrist like someone who'd scanned one too many price tags. She wasn't lazy. She wasn't bitter for no reason. She was tired. And suddenly, Mark felt something else. Shame. He had walked into this store expecting to find small inefficiencies, a cart out of place, a slow register, maybe a grumpy employee or two. But this wasn't just a complaint. It was a cry from the floor. A glimpse into the reality behind the glossy brochures and staged training videos. And still, he didn't move. He couldn't. Instead, he listened. "I'm not saying I hate the job," the cashier went on, turning back to her customer with a smaller, more genuine smile. "I like the regulars. I like making someone's day a little easier. But man, it's hard not to feel invisible, you know." The woman nodded. "I work in a clinic. It's the same. Higher-ups don't see the mess we deal with." "Exactly," the cashier said, handing over the receipt. "They make decisions from their fancy boardrooms, and we're the ones trying to keep things from falling apart with duct tape and good intentions." Mark felt a knot in his stomach. That phrase, duct tape and good intentions, hung in the air like smoke. She didn't know it yet, but she just summarized the entire gap between corporate leadership and frontline workers in 8 words. And she wasn't wrong. He glanced around. A few customers had formed a short line behind her register, but no one seemed in a rush. People liked her. She was honest, witty, even funny in a dry sort of way. She managed to rant about her workplace while still giving each customer eye contact and genuine interaction. That's when it hit him. This wasn't someone trying to stir up trouble. This was someone who cared. Someone who wanted things to be better, not just for herself, but for everyone clocking in every day and giving their all. And that meant her words, however sharp, were worth listening to. He pulled back behind the cereal stack, his mind buzzing. He had 2 choices. 1, walk out, get in his car, and pretend none of this happened. Keep sending motivational emails and let the machine roll forward. Or 2, face the truth, swallow his pride, and finally start listening. Mark looked down at the Freshmart logo stitched into his cheap polo shirt. He knew what he had to do. As Mark lingered near the front of the store, pretending to inspect a fruit display, his mind was anything but focused on apples and oranges. His fingers absent-mindedly turned over a bruised peach, but his thoughts were somewhere else, racing backward through time. A time before boardrooms. Before balance sheets. Before shareholders. He remembered the day Freshmart was born. It wasn't glamorous. In fact, it started with a 1,200-square-foot storefront on the corner of 5th and Lawson, where the paint peeled from the walls and the shelves were mostly secondhand. It was him, his sister Jamie, and 2 local high schoolers who worked part-time after class. They didn't even have uniforms back then, just matching aprons they'd stitched together during a late-night brainstorm in his sister's garage. He remembered scrubbing floors at 2 a.m., soaked in sweat and stubborn mop water. He remembered falling asleep in the stockroom on flattened cardboard boxes, feet throbbing from the 18-hour shifts. He remembered the thrill of their first real customer who wasn't a neighbor or a pity shopper. He remembered dreaming of turning Fresh Mart into something big. And now it was big. Huge, even. 100 stores across 7 states. Millions in annual revenue. Fresh Mart had its own corporate headquarters, a branded fleet of delivery trucks, and a social media team that posted curated images of avocados and happy employees. But somewhere between store number 1 and store number 100, something had changed. Maybe it was inevitable. Now, Mark's days were consumed by strategy meetings, quarterly earnings calls, and expansion forecasts. He knew the exact percentage of year-over-year growth. He could tell you the shrinkage rates at the distribution centers in Dallas and Phoenix. He even had a personalized dashboard that tracked real-time inventory movement in every location. But he didn't know the name of a single employee in store number 48. Not one. And that realization hit him harder than anything Lily, the red-haired cashier, had said at the register. He glanced over his shoulder and saw her again. The sarcasm was gone now. She was helping an elderly man, probably in his late 70s, count out coins to pay for a small bag of groceries. A loaf of bread. A few eggs. A single can of soup. She wasn't rushing him. She wasn't sighing or checking the clock. She leaned forward, gently separating quarters from nickels, whispering something he couldn't hear. Then she smiled, the kind of smile you can't fake, and placed the groceries carefully into a bag like they were made of glass. Her name tag read, Lily. Mark stared at it, repeating the name silently in his mind like he was trying to memorize it. It felt strange, having to learn the name of someone who worked for him. Shouldn't he know them all? Or at least, some. He swallowed hard. What had happened to him? Somewhere along the way, the vision had become a brand, and the brand had become a machine. A machine that was now so automated, so streamlined, so corporate, that the people who kept it running, the Lilies of the world, had become faceless cogs. He turned back to the fruit display, but now the colors felt artificial. The apples, once vibrant and symbolic of the fresh in Fresh Mart, now looked like props in a play he no longer recognized. When was the last time he spoke to a cashier without a PR person nearby? When was the last time he walked through a store without it being announced days in advance? When was the last time he asked someone how they were doing, and meant it? His phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't check it. Not now. Right now, he needed to be here. Present. Listening. Feeling what his people felt, not from behind a conference room table, but from aisle 5, where the lights flickered and the tile had a crack running straight through the middle. He looked back at Lily one more time. She was ringing up the next customer now, joking about a broken scanner and offering a discount with a wink. The sarcasm was still there, sure, but underneath it was someone trying to stay hopeful, trying to make a tired job a little lighter, for herself and everyone around her. That's when Mark knew. This store, this moment, this person, Lily, was more valuable than any shareholder report he'd read this year. And somehow, he'd forgotten that. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to remember. Later that afternoon, after the last rush of customers had cleared out and the fluorescent lights began to hum a little louder in the quiet, Lily clocked out. She stretched her arms, her shoulders aching from standing for 9 hours straight. Her feet felt like bricks in her shoes, and she was already mentally counting how many hours she'd have before her next shift tomorrow. Just as she grabbed her bag from under the counter and started toward the exit, the assistant manager appeared, tapping gently on her arm. "Hey, can you come to the break room for a sec? Someone wants to talk to you." Lily frowned. "I'm off the clock." "I know. But he says it's important." She sighed, half expecting some last-minute paperwork or a lecture about the register drawer being off by a few cents. She pushed open the break room door and stopped. Inside stood a man in a tailored navy suit, clean-shaven, confident, and clearly out of place in a dingy staff break room with flickering lights and a sticky vending machine. He turned when she entered, offering a calm, slightly amused smile. "You wanted to see me?" Lily asked cautiously, still holding her bag. The man extended a hand. "Yes. I'm Mark Dalton." Her eyes widened. "Wait. The Mark Dalton? As in the CEO? As in, the guy who writes those company-wide emails?" He chuckled. "That's me. But I can confirm, for the record, no yachts, and I hate smoothies." Lily's face went pale. "Oh my God. I didn't mean." He raised his hand gently. "Relax. You're not in trouble. I'm not mad. Actually, I'm grateful." She blinked, unsure how to respond. Mark gestured to one of the plastic chairs. "Please, sit." Hesitantly, she did, keeping her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "So, you were here today? Like, here?" He nodded. "In disguise. Bad mustache. Worse khakis." Realization dawned on her face. "You were the guy near the cereal display." "Guilty," he said with a smile. Lily groaned softly and covered her face. "This is so embarrassing." "No," Mark said seriously, his tone shifting. "It was honest. And I needed to hear it." She lowered her hands slowly, looking at him. "I built this company from the ground up," he began. "I remember sweeping floors at midnight and running out of change at the register. I remember fixing broken freezers with duct tape and begging friends to help unload boxes. I used to know every corner of every store, every staff member's name, their birthdays. I used to be part of the heartbeat." He paused and looked at her. "But somewhere along the way, I got too far away. The company grew, and I disappeared into boardrooms and budgets. I stopped seeing the stores. I stopped hearing the people." Lily tilted her head, her tone softening. "Then why were you here today?" He took a breath. "Because I needed to remember. And because I've been fooling myself into thinking everything was fine just because the numbers looked good. But numbers don't tell the whole story." There was a pause. Then Lily spoke, more gently than before. "I didn't mean to badmouth the company. Or you. I was just tired. And frustrated." "I know," he said. "But that's why it mattered. You said what no one else has had the courage, or maybe the opportunity, to say out loud." She met his eyes. "Well, someone had to say it." He smiled. "You did. And because of that, things are going to change." Lily raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "You're going to fix every store?" "I'm going to start by listening," Mark said. "Really listening. Not through reports. Not through managers sugarcoating the truth. But from people like you." There was a moment of silence between them. "You know," Lily said, leaning back in her chair, "most CEOs would have just fired me." Mark nodded. "Maybe. But they'd have fired the one person brave enough to tell the truth. And I'd rather promote that kind of courage than punish it." Lily blinked. "Wait, are you saying—" "I'm not offering you a promotion today," he interrupted with a wink. "But I am offering you a voice. Help me create something better. Let's fix this company from the floor up. Together." Lily sat there, stunned. Then slowly, she smiled. "All right, boss. Let's do it." In the weeks that followed, Freshmart began to feel different. It didn't happen overnight. Change never does. But for the first time in years, the shift didn't come from the top of a corporate memo, it came from the floor. The first move Mark made was bold, a new company-wide initiative called Voices from the Floor. The premise was simple. Each month, employees at every level, cashiers, stockers, janitors, night shift managers, could submit anonymous thoughts, ideas, or even complaints directly to the executive team. No filters. No red tape. No fear of retaliation. Every single message would be read, personally, by Mark and his core leadership team. And here was the kicker. Not only would feedback be reviewed, but a selection of it would be published, unfiltered, in the company's internal newsletter, followed by direct responses and action plans. It wasn't just a suggestion box. It was accountability, transparency, and acknowledgement rolled into one. But Mark didn't stop there. He resumed touring stores himself, unannounced, undercover. No press releases. No warning. Just him, a fake mustache, and a clipboard. This time, though, he wasn't there to catch people doing something wrong. He was there to catch them doing things right, and to understand the real struggles they faced. And the employees, they noticed. Managers who had grown too comfortable began rethinking how they led. Regional directors started showing up in person. And the staff, they began to talk more openly. Some were skeptical at first. But slowly, cautiously, they began to believe that someone was finally listening. Budgets were restructured. Outdated equipment, especially the famously faulty freezers in several stores, was replaced. Staffing plans were overhauled, giving breathing room to overwhelmed teams. For the first time in years, stores began reporting fewer complaints and higher morale in the same week. And at the very center of all this transformation, Lily. She didn't quit. Not only did she stay, but she found herself at the heart of something bigger than she'd ever imagined. Mark personally asked her to join a new advisory group, an employee-led panel that would review feedback from the Voices from the Floor initiative and help shape policy before it went to corporate. She wasn't there as a token voice. She was there because she'd earned her seat, because she'd dared to say what no one else had, and because Mark knew that the company needed real voices, not just polished titles. When Lily first walked into her first panel meeting, wearing the same beat-up sneakers she wore behind the register, she felt out of place. Intimidated. But within minutes, that feeling faded. Because she wasn't alone. There were other employees just like her, diverse in age, background, and experience, each with stories to tell. And for once, the suits weren't talking at them. They were asking questions, listening, taking notes. And then came the final twist. Mark approached her one afternoon, coffee in hand and a sheepish smile on his face. "I need your help," he said. Lily raised an eyebrow. "With what?" "I'm writing the next company-wide email," he said. "And I want you to co-write it with me." She blinked. "Seriously? You want the person who publicly roasted your last one to help you write a new one?" He grinned. "Exactly. Who better?" So they sat down, side by side, and for the first time, an executive message wasn't written by a corporate strategist, but by two people who had stood on opposite sides of the system and chose to meet in the middle. And when that email hit inboxes across all 100 stores, it didn't open with a generic quote or a polished slogan. It opened with truth. The heartbeat of the company isn't just its people. It's the people who dare to speak up, and the leaders who have the guts to listen. The response was electric. Hundreds of replies poured in. Some were short, "Thank you for this." Others were emotional, sharing stories that had never been told. For the first time in years, employees felt seen, not as labor, not as cost centers, but as voices that mattered. And Lily, she kept her name tag. She kept working at the store 2 days a week, even after her promotion. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to stay grounded. She said it reminded her where she started, and where the company nearly lost its way. As for Mark, he never stopped visiting stores. He never stopped listening. And he never wrote another company email alone. Sometimes the most powerful change doesn't come from the top. It starts with a whisper on the floor. So whether you're the boss, the new hire, or someone stuck in between, never underestimate your voice. Thumbs up like this story. Hit like and subscribe for more real-life inspired tales that remind us what leadership and courage really mean.